All right, what is up, YouTube? Coach Kolton here to bring you physique development tools, skills, opinions that you can hopefully use for yourself to make some gains. Now, today I wanted to present you my muscle building philosophy. It's not going to agree with a lot of people, I guess, in the industry, and it's going to be sort of a discontinuation of the modern stream of thought. I guess in the past, and I'm bringing more up of the golden era. If you've ever read Arnold's Encyclopedia to Bodybuilding, or watched any videos of Dorian Yates training, or even Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman, really great examples. You know, if you're into bodybuilding, you've been in this scene, you've been trying to build muscle, you obviously are going to know who those individuals are. They all kind of preach this aspect of intensity, and it's slowly been drifting away, not only in bodybuilding or in fitness in general, but in altogether the society in which we live in. And in this presentation, I kind of want to present to you my thoughts, my understanding of the current environment of this whole kind of realm, the fitness realm, and how I kind of approach things when I'm talking to clients or coaching clients to improve their physiques and develop something in which they've aspired to develop for a very long period of time. So hopefully in this video, you'll achieve some understanding of where I'm coming from and find maybe some little golden nuggets for you to take home that emotionally connect with you, and hopefully physically can impact you as well. So let's go through this. It's going to be quick. It's going to be abrupt. Enjoy it. So the agenda for today. The first series of PowerPoints is going to be about why you should listen. What's important about me that makes me reputable. Second, Rage Against the Machine. You'll see slowly what I talk about as I talk about that indeed. Third, intensity, how to bring intensity to the table. And four, embrace the suck. There's a 4-part series to this presentation. So why you should listen? Well, I'm a PNBA pro. That means I competed nationally in bodybuilding. I won my pro card, beating all other competitors at a national level, which is really cool. Not really, honestly, something I'm extremely proud of, but it's a cool title to have. I train with cerebral palsy, and that's something you'll see evidently in all these pictures. Now, obviously, I'm not as worse off as some individuals, but when I'm doing my side biceps, you always notice I do it on my left side. That's because my right side is affected by cerebral palsy. It's a very minor case, but it is there. My right leg is about 1 inch to 1.25 inches shorter than my left, which leaves me with quite some abruptions. If you look at this picture of me in the right side here, you'll notice that one leg is, specifically one calf, if you're looking at that picture, is significantly smaller than the other. And you can see that right there with the tattoo on the what would be you viewing this, what would be your right leg there. That calf is significantly smaller. I can't actually control my foot. I can't actually, have proper hip placement and also lower spine placement. So that leads to a lot of excruciating moments for me, growing pains, and plenty more that I experienced as a child that we won't get into today. I was in the military for 8 years, partially serving as a cavalry scout, which is like advanced reconnaissance and combat arms, dealing with direct combat. Training many of hundreds of privates in my time. I retired as a staff sergeant. My main prerogative for the majority of my career was to train new privates who were coming into the military, physically hardening them, and as well trying to mentally provide them with some rigidity and robustness for the outside world other than just the military. I'm a pretty prolific coach. I've coached many people out of nutritional kind of errors within their life, metabolic disease and such. I've also coached many bodybuilders, in fact, qualifying 2 bodybuilders this year for nationals alone. So in a sense, I do know what I'm talking about. I have put these things into practice. I do become very aware of my surroundings in this community. I know I'm not the best coach in the world, but I also know that I'm quite a bit more intelligent and well-placed and well-intentioned than a lot of other coaches. And I'd put myself, if I had to, right up there with the higher level coaches in this industry. I have a degree in science and nutrition. Again, this is one of those things that I put out there and it's a title, but it doesn't really mean much to me. What's more important is all I do is this, literally. I train every day. It's my absolute passion, my absolute love. It keeps me from depression. It keeps me from anxiety. It makes me forget I have cerebral palsy. It is enhancing my lifestyle every second of every day. If someone was to tell me this would kill me in 5 years, I'd say that's awesome. I'm going to keep doing it because I don't see a life without this kind of journey in it. So this is something I truly enjoy. I coach people, hundreds of people, literally right as we speak. I have hundreds of clients. I coach them every single day, talk to them every single day. They all want the same thing: to look better, to have more muscle, to feel better, and do the things that really badass people do. And that's why I'm here on this earth. And that's my true belief, is that I'm here to provide people the education, whether that's a dumbed down version of it or the most kind of advanced and hyper scientific version of it I can give. I tend to err on the side of dumbed down just because the general population tends to relate with that more, and why it sounds really cool to say scientific things. You'll see my opinions on that very, very quickly. Rage Against the Machine. So the problem with the fitness industry is everyone is trying to push their products. Everyone's trying to push their service. You talk to anyone, you listen to anyone's content, they have a certain way of doing things. And what's odd about it is they're all different from each other. You very rarely find someone or some other parties that agree with each other. You have very, very robust groups like N equals 1. You have RP, you have 3DMJ, you have Coach John Jewett. There's so many individuals in this industry who are extremely well knowledged, well talented, but they all push their own way of doing things. Maybe they have some similarities within each other, but ultimately I find that they all do things a little bit differently. They all touch on a little bit of different aspects than each other. Now, why is this? Because they're trying to sound different. They're trying to stand out of the crowd. They're trying to appeal to someone's standard of living. They're trying to maybe grasp your attention over somebody else's. And it's just them at the end of the day trying to sell a product. I don't need any more clients. This isn't me selling a product. This is just me talking, right? I am telling you right now that a lot of the shit you hear on Instagram, on YouTube, whatever, isn't because it's some revolutionary thing that's truly impactful to hypertrophy. If that was the case, we'd have 300-pound motherfuckers walking around everywhere. It's absolutely not the case. What is the case is that there are very much so other variables and other things that you can change, but it isn't so much that it's this one special thing. Throw away everything you think you know and understand. Along the lines with that first point, everything you've learned up until this point can be questioned. It is not solidified. We don't even know truly. We know the mechanisms behind hypertrophy. We know how hypertrophy can happen, but we don't really even know at a cellular level what is happening when hypertrophy happens. We have no clue. Okay, there's so much we don't understand about hypertrophy, about how to build muscle, about how steroids work, about how growth hormone works. You can hear people talk all of this shit. They don't know. They can sound like the most prolific, elusive, and have like such a high proclivity to just being an intelligent sounding motherfucker, but at the end of the day, they're not, right? They put this out there, they're selling their product, they're selling their resources to you, and you are latching on to that idea. So everything you know can be questioned. It is not solidified. It is not robust. It can be questioned. The ambiguity of the fitness industry is vast, and you have to let go of predetermined notions. You have to let go of what you think you know to really, truly be able to adapt new ideas. And this doesn't just go along with fitness. This goes along with literally everything in your life. What do you think you know? And what happens when you really question that? What happens when you really test your theories about business, about fitness, about health, about your relationships, about your friendships, about your place in the world, what your meaning in life is? What happens when you truly question those things? Many of us don't. We just kind of ponder life and go along what's comfortable. Research is trashy. I'll say it. I'm sure many of others have said it, but I will say it. Research is trashy. We'll get into why this is a big thing. Biomechanics isn't a big deal. Okay. It's really not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. I would say that, and of course, someone who has an absolutely preposterous form is going to be diabolically destroying their body. But at the end of the day, it is not as big of a deal as some people make it. And as long as you feel the given muscle tissue that you're trying to work, you're getting a pump, you're feeling like you've spent that particular muscle, I would say what you're doing is perfectly fine. Obviously, there's always tweaks that can be done, but at the end of the day, biomechanics, which is being made to seem, as of currently, I've seen this trend at least, what is being made to seem as like the end all be all. It's the only way you can grow if you are correctly and biomechanically properly doing certain exercises. And if you're not, you're simply not growing. It's false. It's so fucking false. It really doesn't even matter. And I'll get into that as well. Drugs work, but only in certain contexts. So, and this is something I might touch on, I might not, depending on how far I really want to get into things and how much time I want to take. Research is trashy. So what do I mean by this? The majority of research is conducted on untrained individuals. If you look up almost any study done, keep in mind, if you have gone to college, just imagine your senior class in high school conducting studies, okay? We somehow interpret studies as like this amazing kind of profound library of factual information. Keep in mind, these are motherfuckers who are 19 to 20 years old, conducting studies, putting down the papers, writing dissertations to get their degree. How really passionate were you when you were getting your English class done and you had to write that one paper about a $1? Were you really passionate, or were you just kind of shitting out stuff to let it go onto the paper so you can get at least a decent grade to pass? Okay, these are the people who are writing and conducting these studies. So the majority of them are untrained. They have to find individuals who come in and do these studies on. Oftentimes, there's very hard kind of descriptions of what trained and untrained is, and more often than not, those people are untrained. If you really dig into the methods section of any study, which is my favorite section as far as it relates to pharmacology, hypertrophy, physiology, great section to read. We often skip over it, but it's probably the most valuable in almost any study, and it will quickly give you context to what the results of that study can even mean, and the contextual evidence to even provide you insight. Is this study even worth, listening to? But if you read the methods section of any hypertrophy study, most of the time, even if the individuals are labeled as trained, it's quite underwhelming what the authors consider to be trained. So if you're looking at like, what is a trained individual? Literally, for some authors, that means they've been training for 2 or more weeks consistently. Like, that is not a trained individual in my mind. If you've been training for 6, 8, maybe even a decade, years in length, you're not trained, right? You're just getting to the edge of like adept and then trained. Like, you're significantly a new and good trainer when you're at about like 3 years, I would say. I was still learning shit when I was 2 years into training like I've never known before. I'm still learning shit after a decade of training, being a professional bodybuilder. I'm still going to the gym, doing exercises and feeling different muscles than I was before, working different weights than I was before, trying different exercises than I was before. Trained is a very, 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 while I said it's specific in some contexts because of the hard numbers, it's inspecific as much as the skill requirement is, or how do you really even measure someone's ability to fire motor neurons within their chest as opposed to another person and right next to them, right? Because I know I can do one set of chest and absolutely fry my fucking chest. But I know that someone who hasn't been trained as well, maybe even someone who hasn't trained for as long as I have, but has trained for 3 years, can do 3 of those sets and be like, wow, man, I didn't really feel that. It's not because I'm significantly weaker or less impressive than them. It's because I know how to use that muscle much more effectively and efficiently. So these things should be considered in studies, but they just aren't. And again, this is why research is trashy. You just simply can't correlate what's being done in these studies. Again, imagine your senior high school class conducting these studies, writing down this information. If you really dig into the methods section of any of these studies, you'll find that quite quickly they're just absolutely worthless. And yet we have the most influential people in our industry using these in every single Instagram post, every single video. You have so many people trying to claim that electro I was going to say EMF because they're just playing a super natural game, but you have people saying that muscle activation through measurement of electrical pulse through that muscle. The word or the acronym for it is escaping me right now. But those individuals say like that stuff really matters, and it really doesn't actually. When you truly measure out pros versus cons in that way of measurement, it really doesn't. Pretty much the only way to detect how much of a muscle is working is by doing a biopsy and then testing that biopsy or that actual muscle fiber for what would be, the metabolites of the energy byproducts like ATP and such and glycogen from working that specific muscle. But regardless of that, these studies are just simply like, even if you were reading studies by Brad Schoenfeld, one of the very, very established researchers within this industry, he's not conducting those studies. Okay. He has a team who are also undergraduates conducting those studies. And this is so important to understand, that even when you see this stuff, okay, hypertrophy is one of those things that the jocks go into, like exercise, physiology, like all these things are things that your jocks go into, like the people who really weren't passionate about English, which is great because some of those dudes are literally the most influential, impactful, and inspirational people I've met. But what I'm saying is that you can't just necessarily read a study, say it's concrete and factual. The people also eliciting the training for the participants are not trainers in and of themselves. They usually have no significant sort of certification that establishes them as a trainer in any way, shape, or form. Okay, usually they're just some form of a student who is within the study's parameters. It's not necessarily that individual is actually able to give a cue to the person training. So it's like, how do you even know if this person is like, what is this? The trainer or the person who is doing or conducting the study in and of themselves, or at least taking notes on it, do they even know what they're looking for? Do they even know what they're telling the person to do? Do they even know what full depth on a bench press is or full depth on a squat is? These things really matter. Researchers also don't typically include outliers in studies, nor genetic variability. There's usually non-responders or several other kind of labeled terms for individuals who simply don't meet the criteria of what they're studying, so they just boot them out of the study, or they just don't include the data. Again, you'll find this stuff in the methods section of every study. These outliers are probably what most people are. I just find that, simply being put, the people who are not in those outlier groups are just, following the protocol in which the researchers are doing. It's becoming heavily biased. There's like these predetermined inputs, and it's just like a messy, kind of muddy gamut. And there's also, like, when you consider genetic variability, there's 10,000 phosphorylation sites to deal with muscle hypertrophy. There's like over 153 genetic strands that actually control hypertrophy in some sense or another. There is thousands of proteins, such as mTOR and others, that relate to hypertrophy. So like, you having one pidge of a genetic variability from the person to your left or right can completely change your response to exercise. Completely. These things aren't measured. There is some things that can be gained from research, and they are not as many as I'd like to ideally say, but there is some. What research is really good at showing us is what doesn't work, what simply didn't work in a study. If someone was doing leg extensions and they wanted to test isometric holds for 30 seconds and 2-minute rests, and 30 seconds on, 2-minute rest, and for whatever reason, that provided no stimulus for hypertrophy, there was no measurement in response to that actual exercise, that pretty much well doesn't work. But when we see things work, it doesn't mean that they do work all the time, but it gives us a pretty clear image of what simply does not work. You can read the data all you want, but when you really dig on, especially in the non-responder groups in those studies, or like whatever group, whether that was the control group or whatnot, who was a non-responder, you'll be able to quickly see what does not work and what you should probably not take away from the research, what you should probably not do. And I think that's probably more valuable than actually reading the research itself. Going back to my initial points here, I wanted to touch on a little bit of this stuff. Biomechanics isn't a big deal. And what do I mean by this? Well, you can literally try to practice the best biomechanics in the world. You can try to get every single movement down to the actual resistance profile of the exercise to match your strength profile of your muscle. You can get the moment arm to be as perfect as you can throughout the full range of the movement. You can ensure that you're getting full range all the time. But I promise you, you are going to be the smallest dude in the gym while you're doing all that. While you're taking out your protractor and you're taking out your pen, you're measuring all the variables and angles and trying to get the moment arm to the exact point and degree in which you need it to be. You are literally going to be the smallest dude in the gym. And there's a reason for that. Biomechanics doesn't provide you a knowledge of how hard to push yourself. Biomechanics doesn't provide you a knowledge of what the muscle feels like when there's blood in it. Biomechanics doesn't give you the knowledge of how it feels to actually be growing tissue. And when you do one exercise over another, what the response is and how significantly different that can be. Biomechanics doesn't teach you these things. It gives you a clear cut and dry, this exercise is better than this exercise. This movement is better than this movement. You need to work the length and range of a muscle versus the shortened range of a muscle. This shit goes on and on and on. And I promise you, if this is all you're worried about when you're walking to the gym, or this is all you're critiquing people on their videos on Instagram or TikTok, you're probably the smallest dude in the gym. And it's not that you are doing things right and everyone is doing things wrong. I would probably reverse that, honestly, at the end of the day. I see people all over I work out at one of the most significant gyms in the United States, Destination Dallas. And I see people in there all the time. And there's two groups of people I found. If we can kind of, consolidate them into those two groups, you have your, nerdy trainers who are trying to figure out the biomechanically sound way of making movements happen. And they're small. They're doing the same drugs. They're eating the same food, but they're just small and they aren't impressive. And you look at them train and it's taking them 5 minutes to do one set. And you're like, what's really going on there? You look at them, you can tell they're not pumped. You can tell, they're not like super into it and excited to be there. Their mentality is just existentially thinking about other things versus internally, firing yourself up. It's just not there. And there's the other group of people who actually are fired up, who actually are there to train, who actually are pushing themselves, sweating their asses off. You can see in their body, they're pumped, their veins are blowing up, they're grunting, they're yelling, they are pushing themselves to the absolute max, something which many have forgotten to do. Many have forgotten to do. Guess what? Those are also the biggest dudes in the gym. Those are also the IFBB pros. This is not a healthy user bias. This is not a bias of genetics. This is literally what you will see when you walk into a gym and you're really observant. The people who are able to shift their mindset, who are able to philosophically change who they are in the gym and truly push themselves to levels in which have been unaware of from them, those are the people who are going to grow. It's not the people who pull out the protractor and talk about the best movement versus this movement and your scapular range of motion, all this shit. I promise that doesn't matter. As much as you think it might, it doesn't matter. Sure, it matters a little bit because someone doing completely horrible form isn't going to grow as well as the person who's got some remnants of form. But I promise you, at the end of the day, people who are training intensely are going to be the ones that grow. And drugs work, but only in certain contexts. What I mean by that essentially is that, you can use all the drugs in the world, but unless you're using them properly, it's not going to help, right? The common sense of knowledge is, you use a safer use model, you increase the dosage as you see fit for a response, expect to grow roughly half a pound a week, somewhere around there with some added body fat as well. These things are we love standardized answers, and just simply put, they're not fucking standardized. You can't get standardized answers with hypertrophy, as I just stated, with the thousands, literally the hundreds of thousands of variables involved with just cellular hypertrophy, like just the cellular mechanisms, not taking in the external mechanisms. There's no way of predicting these things, and having clear-cut answers like this, you must use dosage, this X, Y, and Z for this kilogram weight. You must, use this compound over this compound. Shut the fuck up. It doesn't matter. What matters is in what context for you as an individual that drug works. If you've tried X, Y, and Z, you know that X, Y, and Z works in certain contexts. If you've tried X, Y, and Z and you got no response, you know X, Y, and Z doesn't work in certain contexts. Simple as that. Intensity. This is the one thing that matters above all else. And I'm not just talking about exercise. I'm talking about life. I'm talking about in general, how you are breathing every single day, intensity. intensity in all aspects. Again, in a sense, yes, training balls hard, going to the fucking max, yelling, grunting, sweating, being that greasy motherfucker in the gym who's just ready to get down and dirty and hurt themselves, just fucking hurt themselves. Those are the kind of intensities that you want to bring to the gym. But I'm talking about a larger component here, a bigger and deeper kind of methodology. I'm talking about intensity being the main aspect in which your life will come to fruition, that discipline will set you free. Intensity is the one key that many of our generation has lacked. And that while it sounds myopic, which it very well might be, I certainly find it true. When I look to my left and my right, I just see people who are dogging it through the day, who are just looking at their phones, who are just unaware and socially inept because they've never pushed themselves. They've never gotten uncomfortable. And this is what's sickening about walking around the gym and seeing people who just push to where they feel okay, and it's not too burny and it's not too heavy and I'm not too sweaty. I'll just focus on really good form and that's going to get me through the workout. Yeah, those are the fucking people that never make it. And there's hundreds of them on TikTok. Okay, you have to realize intensity in all areas in life is so goddamn important. People are afraid to suffer. This is just the frankness of the situation. People are afraid for hunger, pain, isolation, cold or warmth, sweat or pressure. These people just don't want to suffer. But when you break past that plateau into that range of suffering, the grass is always greener on the other side. Discipline will set you free. It sucks, but embrace that fucking suck. And we'll get to this. People fail not because they don't know what to do. And this is a big thing. Same thing with the biomechanical individuals who take out their protractor during the exercises and try to figure out the perfect way to do things. It's not that they don't know what they're doing, but it's that they don't understand that they're not pushing themselves to their hardest degree. And sometimes we can perceive this, right? We can perceive in our mind, I am right now pushing myself to the hardest I absolutely can. But the fucking reality is you're not. You didn't shift your mind. You didn't change your internal state to that fire, to that on switch, to that beaming inside of you. You didn't pull it out when you got to the gym. So yeah, you might be saying, well, I'm pushing as hard as I can, and I think I reached failure. But was your soul involved in that set? Were you literally on ground? Can you feel your skin in the air? Can you be mindful of the moment you are in? You know, monks call this dukkha, you know, the one that can suffer the most, can prosper the most. And they learn through life that suffering is awareness, suffering is mindfulness. We lack suffering. You need to walk in the gym with an appreciation for the amount of pain you're going to put yourself in and walk out fucking proud of yourself. But I don't just mean in the gym. I don't want to be so dogmatic to say this is just important in the gym. I'm talking about with your relationships. I'm talking about with your family. I'm talking about with your finances. You have to be able to suffer. Hey, you want that fucking new iPhone? Suck a dick. Okay? Fucking wait. You want new headphones? Too fucking bad. Go to the gym without music. Okay? You want those new shoes? We have 8 that fit and they're fine. Fucking wear them. Suffering is fine, and you need to embrace it in all aspects of life because it will literally set you free. And lastly, just kind of summarizing here, embracing the suck, and this leads me to my final point. I could talk about science till my fucking legs fall off, literally. I have been taught through my education, through the military, to rehearse, repeat, and sound intelligent. But one thing I've learned, if it's been my time on this earth doing what I'm doing right now, it's that people who sound like they know what they're doing don't know what the fuck they're doing. They can rehearse the things that they're reading. They can rehearse the things that they're saying and sound very, very efficient and sound very, very intellectual. But at the end of the day, when the fucking stone hits the, whatever the saying is, the rhinestone hits the grindstone, whatever the shit that says is, it doesn't fucking matter. And what they say, what they talk, how they are moving and performing doesn't really equate to, is it getting results? It's just the standard in our education system. We're not taught to truly learn material. We're just taught to memorize it and then dump it off on the back end. The person who can memorize the most gets the farthest in school. The person who can memorize their craft the most gets their PhD. Okay. It's not their fault. It's just how our education system works. And because you can spout out all the fantastic and tantalizing fucking information in the world, doesn't mean you are more intelligent than the person to your left or right. Again, these things do not fucking matter as much as we assign them value. Because someone sounds intellectual, because someone sounds like they might have a propensity to know what they're talking about, a proclivity to have an extreme profession in their profession, doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best voice you should listen to. Okay. People have different mindsets. They might know a lot, but their mindset might not align with yours, or their practice might, or their preach might not be something that you can put into practice. This is something worth knowing. And so this is the final point. Next time, and this is, I'm going to propose this in sort of questions. Next time you stop a set, ask yourself this: how much did I really have? Was the pain as bad as I had interpreted it to be? I had interpreted it to be. Could I have done more? Was that really my last rep? When I think about it, was that just me contemplating pain, or was that me actually experiencing pain? See, I find that when people actually stop grunting and yelling so much as they want to, even though they're not training hard, and you see this when you watch people, if they just calm their nervous system down a little bit and breathe, and again, be mindful with their body in pain, and be mindful of where they are, not just blast music and pre-workout and forget about it all and just fast forward through 2 hours of a workout. Be present. Are you really in pain? Because when you just take a second, take 3 breaths, close your eyes and feel your body, close your eyes and calm your heart rate down, you notice, holy shit, I can do so much fucking more. When you're hungry, ask yourself this: am I truly hungry, or am I just bored? Am I hungry? Or am I just, contemplating what I'm going to eat next? These are really important things. Have you just not done anything today so that all you have to do is sit and think? Because that's probably the majority of dieters' problems. Or is it, you're hungry, but are you going to die? Because even when we're dieting on very low calories, what I'd call poverty calories, we're still eating more than most people around the globe. The glutton of America eats probably 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day. A dieter in America probably eats 1,600 to 1,500 calories a day towards the end of a contest prep for a male, somewhere around 1,200 to 1,000 calories for a female, probably going lower if needed for both of those groups. But that's still more than a lot of people are eating around the globe. That's still so much more. The chances of you being hungry, again, are fairly low, but when you're actually hungry, it's the very important question you have to ask yourself: am I actually hungry? And if I am, is that such a bad thing? Is it going to kill me? Is being hungry the universal problem to all my issues in life? Or is it that I'm just an emotional bitch and I can't handle the intensity of this situation? Because I'd probably vouch for the latter in almost any context. When your character is questioned in life, ask yourself this: in life, people will shit on you 100%. All of the fucking time, on TikTok, Instagram, in fucking real life, in job interviews, in relationships and friendships, in any certain context. Even your fucking family will shit on you at some point. Ask yourself if their opinion really fucking matters. Does it truly matter? Ask yourself if your success will depend on their opinion. Does their thought of you manipulate your outcomes in life? Probably fucking not. Okay. If your character is questioned, if someone is pressuring the integrity of your thought process, your logic, ask yourself this: does it matter? Am I confident in who I am enough to say that I don't care? That's important. And that might just sound like a cocky thing to say, and I'm certainly not meaning it in that context. So if it's coming off that way, I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is that we fall too often to stupid ass people trying to put their opinions and their thoughts into the world just because they sound confident. Yet we're just not confident in ourselves. But if we were, imagine all the myths and the bullshit we could dispel. Be confident in yourself and ask yourself, does your success really matter or depend on this person's position in life. The same thing applies for supplements. This is a great analogy. If you walk into the store and the GNC guy says, hey, this test booster is going to put 20 pounds of muscle on you, I promise. Ask yourself, 20 pounds sounds a little bit ridiculous. Is this guy's opinion of this product really going to change my results over the next 10 years? If you step out, if you just take a break, if you take 3 steps back in your situation mentally and put your mind in an existential space behind you and just, have a bird's eye view, I call it hovering higher, as if you're in a helicopter, of the entire situation and complexity of your life. Does that moment really matter? And does that individual trying to tell you that that test booster is for you really having your best interests? Probably not. Don't run away, run head first in. Whatever you do, just do it with fucking intensity. Go straight for it. The only way that you can find out what works for you as an individual is by fucking committing. Do it. Stop questioning whether this diet or this diet's better. Stop questioning whether you should do a bro split, a push-pull legs, a fucking whatever the hell, because there's so many goddamn splits out there these days. Just fucking do it and see what works for you. There will be so many goddamn people on the internet who try to confuse you about what is science, what isn't, what is fact, what isn't, what doesn't work and what does. And they will have very strong followings, cultish almost. And they're going to want you to believe a certain type of thing because, again, they're pushing their product or service. It's making them money. This is the most important aspect you need to understand. These people are so fucking insignificant to your situation. You will hear so many opinions in your life about all things, not just fitness, finances, schooling, whatever, housing, taxes. It gets down to the fucking nitty gritty of how you cook your eggs. The only thing that matters is how hard can you work? How much can you truly be better? The fact that you are simply not doing everything you can do is the only thing that should really matter to you. These other people's opinions might provide you some insight into something that you're currently doing wrong, but I honestly believe that we have the solutions within ourselves, and oftentimes we lean on other people to give us their solutions when their solutions simply don't fit for ours, or at least our problems. And that's my belief. This is the product, the child of my past 5 years of life, in which everyone watching this video knows very little about. You need to push harder in all aspects of life. You can know all the science. You can know all the chemical names of certain compounds that are going to treat you with affinity for higher rates of hypertrophy. Sure. But again, over the next 10 years, when we stand out, really look at these things, does it fucking matter? If you aren't the individual who can be consistent, be intense, and stick with shit, you can take all the steroids in the world, but you're still going to be that Weasley little motherfucker sitting down on his couch, complaining on TikTok about how he didn't get the way he got because someone else said to do something else. You need to be much, much more. Be an individual. That's the key. Anyways, that's been it for this video. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully, again, this provided some mild bit of insight. I do encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, if you did enjoy, comment down below. Let me know what you enjoyed. For now, go follow me on Instagram. Maybe find out some more of my content there. Appreciate you sticking through. If you did watch this far, you're obviously a true OG, and I love you to the bottom of my heart. And the people who truly watch these videos mean the world to me, honestly. I don't have many friends in life. I don't have any family. Truly, I don't have any family. So the people who watch these videos, the people who interact with me on social media are my family. And you guys truly mean the world to me. If you guys need anything, you know where to find me.